Welcome back to Tesla Global. Elon Musk takes a stand for making childcare more accessible. Elon Musk is taking a stand in favor of making childcare more accessible. Earlier today he tweeted that he's planning to increase childcare benefits in his companies. He also said that the Musk Foundation will help families directly. In another tweet, he replied to Sarah Moskoff, the CEO and co-founder of Winnie. Winnie focuses on helping parents to find local daycares and preschools while also providing details on these schools such as photos, detailed descriptions of the programs, and tuition information. Sarah Moskoff's thread started with an article by CNN that covered the surging child care costs that are forcing providers to raise their prices. As she continued her thread, Sarah Moskoff pointed out that there is record low labor force participation among women with young children who don't have a college degree. She continued, "So this is further exacerbating the problem because many of these women who would be taking jobs in the care economy are not participating in the labor market, hence why hiring is such a challenge right now for child care providers." She added a quote from a New York Times article that highlighted the issue of a shortage of child care and elder services that are preventing workers, especially women, from being able to work. For women, that's the double whammy. Most of those workers are women, and most of the people who need those supports to enter the workforce themselves are women. She added that within the next 10 months, we will start seeing the impact of abortion bans on the strained child care system. Remember that we have no federal paid leave, so as soon as these babies are born, we'll have, chart with upwards trend, parents who need child care they can't afford. She then added that Elon Musk spoke about population collapse. "I believe that if we want to encourage big families, we have to make child care more accessible. Elon, I'd love to talk more about how we make this a reality." Tesla China had the highest monthly sales of EVs in June. Tesla China had the highest monthly sales of EVs in June, according to Reuters. Earlier this month we reported that Tesla China sold 78,000 in June with a 142% month-over-month increase. What's new is that Tesla crossed a major milestone since it first opened Gigafactory Shanghai. Data from the China Passenger Car Association, CPCA, shows that Tesla sold 78,906 made-in-China vehicles in June. This is the highest monthly sales of Chinese-made vehicles for Tesla since it opened Giga Shanghai. In May, Tesla sold 32,165 vehicles while exporting 22,340. In addition to this June milestone, CPCA Secretary General, Kui Dongshu, said that Tesla achieved the highest monthly output at Giga Shanghai also in June. He didn't give an exact number. China's overall passenger car sales. In total, there were 1,97 million passenger car sales in China. This reflects a 22% increase from last year at this time. According to the CPCA, the government's measures helped. Kui said that he expects car sales to continue to increase next month by around 20% from last year. Demand could also strengthen in the fourth quarter. If so, this would show strong growth for 2022. Model Y ranked best-selling among all passenger cars in China for June. Out of the 1.97 million cars sold, electric vehicles accounted for 27%. The CPCA noted that this was a 130.8% increase. Additionally, the Tesla Model Y ranked as the best-selling model among all passenger vehicles for the first time. A total of 52,557 Model Ys were sold in June. Tesla continues to overcome challenges. Just last week the New York Times reported that Tesla's sales overall slowed as the pandemic hobbles productions. The COVID-19 pandemic has been affecting China and manufacturing for many companies, Tesla included. Considering that the restrictions were reported to be a bit of a challenge for Tesla, the news of record-breaking sales is rather good. Last spring, Gigafactory Shanghai was shut down for 3 weeks due to a COVID-19 outbreak in the region. However, it returned to full strength in May. This was just as Tesla China's global vice president Grace Tao predicted. Consumer Reports finds interest in EVs is rising in the U.S. Consumer Reports has released the results from its largest ever national survey, and it found that over a third of Americans are interested in buying electric vehicles. There is reason to be optimistic about an EV future when Consumer Reports, CR, says that 36% of Americans plan to buy or lease an electric-only vehicle or are seriously considering doing so. However, the survey of 8,027 Americans nationwide also found that people were surprisingly naive regarding the costs of EV ownership, the capabilities of the newest EVs, and even government incentives. Of the 36% of people interested in buying an electric vehicle, the top reasons for their interest included low charging costs, 33%, lower lifetime vehicle costs, 31%, and lower maintenance costs, 28%. Around 14% of the respondents were part of the most interested group of buyers, a group that has grown by 4% since a similar CR survey in 2020. Compared to a Texas poll that we covered previously in Teslarati, Consumer Reports poll showed a lower level of interest. They were also almost entirely focused on the cheaper cost of ownership, instead of new technologies or the environmental impact of EVs. CR notes that data from Cox Automotive last quarter showed that EV sales rose by 76%. This seems to match sales reports from manufacturers this quarter, confirming that interest in EVs is increasing. However, CR put a unique focus on Americans uninterested in buying an EV for their next vehicle. Unlike the Texas poll that showed that a sizable group simply preferred gas/diesel vehicles, CR did not replicate this result and found 3 other reasons why consumers were wary of electric cars. About 61% of those who were uninterested in EVs cited a lack of charging infrastructure, 55% cited range anxiety, and 52% said the cost of buying and or maintaining an EV was too high. While it is unclear if the consumers surveyed were aware of current charging infrastructure or the range of newer electric vehicles, other reasons were often related to a lack of knowledge. Most predominantly, 46% of respondents were unaware of federal and state EV purchasing incentives, a factor that could have influenced whether they could afford an EV. Furthermore, while upfront costs for many EVs remain high, the maintenance costs of these vehicles are far lower than that of their ICE counterparts, once again showing that many consumers are unaware of the benefits of EV ownership. On top of these facts, the demographic that was one of the most likely to be considering buying an EV was people who had either ridden in or had driven EVs within the past year. Only 7% of respondents have driven an EV in the past year, yet these people account for over 20% of those who are interested in buying EVs. This shows that often people lack the interaction with EVs that could prove pivotal to changing their minds on whether these vehicles are viable for their personal use. Other demographics that were more likely to buy EVs include men, younger people, people who live in urban areas, those with higher levels of education, and people with higher incomes. The path forward is clear for auto manufacturers who want to bring more customers in to buy electric vehicles. They must address their concerns about cost, allow potential customers to test drive and experience EV charging, and make them aware of incentives that may help them purchase a vehicle. Each of these tactics will become far more important as more and more manufacturers begin offering EVs, bringing in a wider, and sometimes less knowledgeable, audience. Elon Musk formally moves to terminate Twitter's $44 billion acquisition. In a recent filing with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, Tesla's CEO Elon Musk formally moved to terminate his acquisition attempt of social media platform Twitter. Musk and the Twitter board had agreed to a buyout at $54.20 per share, or $44 billion. In a letter, Musk's legal team stated that despite the Tesla CEO's requests for critical data on the social media platform's users, Twitter had been uncooperative. Skadden Arp's attorney Mike Ringler wrote that Twitter has not complied with its contractual obligations. Musk had demanded more data from Twitter after the social media company noted in an SEC filing that less than 5% of its users are fake accounts. Musk has noted that he believes Twitter's estimates are grossly inaccurate. Twitter has failed or refused to provide this information. Sometimes Twitter has ignored Mr. Musk's requests, sometimes it has rejected them for reasons that appear to be unjustified, and sometimes it has claimed to comply while giving Mr. Musk incomplete or unusable information, the lawyer wrote. Twitter has not provided information that Mr. Musk has requested for nearly 2 months, notwithstanding his repeated, detailed clarifications intended to simplify Twitter's identification, collection, and disclosure of the most relevant information sought in Mr. Musk's original requests, Ringler added. The lawyer added that while Twitter did eventually provide Musk with some information, the information was limited and came with strings attached. While Twitter has provided some information, that information has come with strings attached, use limitations or other artificial formatting features, which has rendered some of the information minimally useful to Mr. Musk and his advisors. For example, when Twitter finally provided access to the 8 developer APIs first explicitly requested by Mr. Musk in the May 25 letter, those APIs contained a rate limit lower than what Twitter provides to its largest enterprise customers, he wrote. Ringler also noted that Twitter had breached its merger agreement with Musk because of materially inaccurate representations. This is reportedly based on Musk's own preliminary review of spam accounts on Twitter. The social media company, for its part, has maintained that it's not possible to calculate spam accounts from solely public information. While this analysis remains ongoing, all indications suggest that several of Twitter's public disclosures regarding its MDAOs are either false or materially misleading. Despite public speculation on this point, Mr. Musk did not waive his right to review Twitter's data and information simply because he chose not to seek this data and information before entering into the merger agreement. In fact, he negotiated access and information rights within the merger agreement precisely so that he could review data and information that is important to Twitter's business before financing and completing the transaction, Ringler wrote. In response to Musk's filing, Twitter board chairman Bret Taylor has stated that Twitter is still committed to closing the deal with the Tesla CEO. Taylor also made it a point that Twitter is looking to close Musk's acquisition at the agreed-upon price of $44 billion. The Twitter board is committed to closing the transaction on the price and terms agreed upon with Mr. Musk and plans to pursue legal action to enforce the merger agreement. We are confident we will prevail in the Delaware Court of Chancery, Taylor wrote.